Hey friends, welcome back to the cabin, and today I have another garden tool tip. I want to share with you how to keep your steel hand garden tools safely rust-free. So when it comes to keeping my hand garden tools clean and rust-free, I'm really not very good at it. I have good intentions. I intend to, after I use them, to bring them up and clean them up and store them and everything, but it just somehow, I get busy putting the food away, working in the garden with other things, get distracted. They get kind of set off to the side until the next time I need them, and then I think, oh, I should have cleaned these up, but I just didn't get to them. First of all, I want to show you a little bit about cleaning these up, and then we'll talk a little more about why I use one oil or lubricant versus another one. These are looking better, much better. Now there's still a little bit of rust down in the cracks and crevices that I couldn't get to, but the oil is going to take care of that. So let's talk about that. What most people would think would be the safest as far as contact with your food, and probably what would come to mind would be vegetable oil. But vegetable oil is not a good choice. And the reason that we don't want to use the pressed oils like canola and corn oil and vegetable oil is that they will actually oxidize, and they will get sticky, and they'll gum up, and also they'll go rancid, because these are going to be in all kind of conditions where there's all kind of pathogens, good and bad, but they're going to be in the dirt, in the soil, and they're going to be out in the heat, and they'll go rancid, and you could risk having some very undesirable pathogens on your tools. So you don't want to use any of those oils. Crisco's the same thing. It's a vegetable oil. It's just been hydrogenated. But lard, butter, tallow, any animal fat or something like that is the same thing. It can go rancid, it can oxidize, and also it can draw undesirables, ants and things like that. So you don't want to use any of those. So no food oils at all, not even olive oil. So what would you use? If you're not going to use a petroleum base, so to speak, and you're not going to use a vegetable base, but it's got to be something that's safe to come into contact with your soil and with your food, your harvest, what would you use? Well, what I use is I use a food grade mineral oil that is made for cutting boards. And there's a difference in this and just a general mineral oil. This has been distilled more, and the impurities distilled, refined out of it. I feel comfortable with it, even though eons, processes ago, it started out as crude oil. It has been purified. Let me get this residue wiped off of here. Kind of made a mess with all that sand, and especially the hedge trimmers. They were a lot worse than I thought they were. They were worse than my pruners. So I got that cleaned off, so I'm going to lay down some layers of some paper towel, and we're going to carefully wipe the dust off of here. And I don't have my gloves on. I probably need them on for this, but I like to be able to feel. But that edge is still sharp, not very sharp, but it's sharp enough, and I sure don't want to get cut with a rusty piece of steel. Okay, so I got the dust off of there, so I'm gonna lay this one over here, and I'm gonna get a clean rag out. And I'm actually just gonna hold this up and put some drops. Well, that was more like a stream instead of drops. But I want to work it down there around those movable joints. So let's put some over here on this side as well. Yeah, it's not going to take much now because I put a lot the first time. Okay, and then I'm going to take the excess that's just kind of hanging around, and I'm just going to wipe it over all of these metal surfaces. Now, I was not able to get every speck of rust off, but what this will do is this is going to stop the rust and keep this lubricated, keep any more rust from coming along. And I'm going to let this sit on there a while. Now we'll sharpen them later. I've got, now I can't do as good of a job as, say, taking them to someone that has a knife sharpener, like that does it for a business, that like does saw blades and stuff like that. But I can get it pretty sharp with this little sharpener that I've got. So I love it. So we went from red to gray, and now it's black. Oh, let's put it over here where you can see it up against my shirt. And they're lubricated. And oh, the difference is unreal. You can really, they're going to be so much easier. Now, if there was a lot dripping on here, I would wipe it off later. I'd let it sit on here for a little bit. Most of it dripped off already on there. But if there was a lot of excess on there, I would wipe it off before I used them. These were a lot worse than I thought. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and oil them and let that oil sit on them. And then I'll go back in a few days and I'll re-sand them with a little more coarse paper. That was 220 grit. It needed to be a little coarser than that to really get down to the years of neglect. But the oil is going to help it, and then I'll do them again and then sharpen them. So, all right, so let me get these oiled, and I'll be back with you in just a bit. There you go. They're all done. They're clean. They're oiled. Now, these grass clippers are they're not carbon steel. They're probably an alloy because they did have some surface rust on them. Doesn't say stainless on there anywhere, so I'm thinking they're an alloy of some sort. But these other two cutters here, they are carbon steel. Now the hedge clippers, of course, they're going to have a little bit more work, but that oil is going to penetrate and really help them out and make it a little bit easier next time around. Now there's a couple of things coming up on the homestead that I'm going to talk about just a second. So I'm going to be doing a couple of worm videos. I have fallen in love with vermicomposting. I've seen a huge difference in my garden from the worm castings and especially the worm tea. But there's a certain way that you have to do it. It has to be aerated, has to be kept aerobic so that the good bacteria thrives and the bad doesn't. So, but that's another video, so we'll get into those. There are a couple of them. We'll be harvesting worm castings and making the worm casting tea. There's just a lot of things going on around here. We're just mighty blessed, and I want to remind you of a very special blessing. Don't ever forget that your Heavenly Father loves you. And we'll see you on the next video. God bless.